Kim Dae-ho stood at the wide window of Luna Station and watched the alien ship grow larger against the black space. The ship looked like a giant metal flower with silver petals that moved slowly in the emptiness. He had seen the pictures many times, but seeing it with his own eyes made his heart beat faster. "They will be here in 20 minutes, said Park Yoon-ji as she walked up beside him. She held a tablet in her hands and looked at the data streaming across the screen. "The ship has 12 different species on board. The Vorthak are leading the talks. They think with pure logic and do not understand emotions very well." Dae-ho nodded. He had spent 3 months learning about these aliens. The Galactic Trade Consortium had been watching Earth for 50 years before they decided to make contact. They thought humans would be easy to control in trade deals. They were wrong about that. "What about the Nexari?" asked Lee Tae-min as he joined them at the window. His military uniform was perfectly clean, and his face showed no worry at all. Dae-ho knew that Tae-min was nervous inside, but he never let it show. "Money is everything to them," said Yoon-ji. "They see every conversation as a chance to make profit. They think we are poor and desperate because we live on just one planet." Choi So-ra laughed softly. "Let them think that. I have memorized every trade record we could find from their networks. They make the same mistakes over and over. They always underestimate new species." Dae-ho looked at his team. These 3 people were the best Earth could offer. Yoon-ji could read alien body language, like a book. Tae-min could stay calm when bombs were falling around him. So-ra remembered every number she had ever seen. Together, they would show these aliens that humans were not easy targets. The station shook slightly as the alien ship connected to the docking bay. Red lights flashed and a voice spoke over the speakers in multiple languages. "The aliens were here. Remember," said Dae-ho to his team. "They expect us to be afraid or excited. We stay calm. We watch everything. We record everything. And we do not agree to anything today." They walked through the halls of Luna Station toward the meeting room. The station was built 50 years ago for mining operations, but now it served as Earth's first diplomatic center. The walls were gray metal, and the air recyclers hummed softly. Everything was clean and functional, just like the aliens expected, from a younger species. The meeting room had a large round table with chairs for humans on one side and special seats for aliens on the other. Cameras were hidden in the walls, and microphones would pick up even the smallest sounds. Everything the aliens said and did would be studied later. The airlock door opened with a hiss, and the aliens walked in. Dae-ho had seen pictures, but the real aliens were different. The Vorthak looked like tall gray trees with 4 arms and faces that never changed expression. Their leader, Ambassador Kelthron, moved with careful steps and looked at each human with large black eyes. The Nexari were shorter and covered in blue fur. They wore many pieces of jewelry and kept touching small devices on their belts. Their leader, Trade Minister Vexahai, already had his tablet out and was taking notes about everything in the room. Behind them came aliens from 10 other species. Some looked like insects. Others looked like birds or fish. One looked almost human except for the extra arms and silver skin. They all stared at the humans like they were looking at interesting animals in a zoo. "Welcome to Luna Station," said Dae-ho in perfect galactic standard language. He had practiced for months to get the sounds right. "I am Kim Dae-ho, speaking for Earth's government. We are honored by your visit." Ambassador Kelthron's eyes grew wider for just a moment. The aliens had not expected humans to speak their language so well. Most new species needed translation. Machines for years. "We greet you, Kim Dae-ho of Earth," said Kelthron. His voice sounded like wind through metal pipes. "I am Ambassador Kelthron of the Vorthak. This is Trade Minister Vexahai of the Nexari. We represent the Galactic Trade Consortium." The aliens sat in their special chairs. Kelthron folded all 4 arms in front of him. Vexahai continued to write notes on his tablet. The other aliens whispered to each other in languages that sounded like music or static or clicking sounds. "Your species interests us," said Kelthron. "You have reached space travel without destroying your planet. This is rare. Most species either fail to leave their world or destroy it in the process." "We learn from our mistakes," said Yoon-ji. She spoke calmly, but her eyes never stopped moving. She watched how each alien breathed, how they held their bodies, how they looked at each other. Every tiny movement told her something about what they were thinking. "Your planet has many resources we need," said VexHy. His voice was higher than Kelthrin's, and he spoke faster. "Rare metals, organic compounds, and some very interesting energy sources. We can offer you protection and technology in exchange for trade rights." Taemin leaned forward slightly. "Protection from what?" The aliens looked at each other. Kelthrin's face did not change, but his arms shifted position. VexHy stopped writing for a moment. "The galaxy has many dangers," said Kelthrin. "Hostile species, space pirates, natural disasters. Young species like yours often face destruction without proper protection." Sora smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "How many young species have you protected in the past 100 years? Another pause. The aliens whispered again, but this time it sounded more urgent. "We have protected 43 species," said VexHy. "All of them now prosper under consortium membership." "And how many of those species still control their own resources?" asked Deho. Silence filled the room. The aliens stared at the humans with new attention. They had expected simple questions about technology or easy agreement to basic terms. They had not expected humans to ask hard questions right away. "All member species benefit from consortium management," said Kelthrin carefully. "Individual resource control is inefficient and often leads to conflict." Yunji watched as several aliens touched their communication devices. They were sending messages to their ship or to other places in the galaxy. The humans were not behaving as expected. "We appreciate your concern for our welfare," said Deho, "but we must discuss these matters with our government before making any decisions. Perhaps we could take a break and continue tomorrow?" The aliens looked surprised again. Most new species either accepted immediately or asked for better terms. None had ever asked for time to think about it. "Of course," said Kelthrin, but his voice sounded less certain than before. "We can wait, but understand that our offer may not remain available indefinitely. Other species compete for consortium attention." "We understand," said Taemin. "Competition makes everything more valuable." As the aliens filed out of the room, they continued to whisper and touch their devices. Some looked back at the humans with expressions that might have been confusion or worry. When the door closed, the human team sat in silence for a long moment. "They are scared," said Yunji finally. "Not of us directly, but of something they did not expect. They came here thinking we would be easy to impress and quick to agree. Instead, we asked questions they usually do not hear until much later in negotiations. Their body language changed completely when we asked about resource control," added Taemin. That question hit something important. Sora pulled up data on her tablet. "I counted 17 different species mentioned in their databases as former independent traders. All of them joined the consortium within 5 years of first contact. All of them lost control of their home systems within 10 years. Deho stood and walked back to the window. The alien ship still hung in space like a sleeping giant. Inside that ship, the aliens were probably having urgent meetings about the strange humans who asked uncomfortable questions. "Tomorrow we continue," he said. "But tonight we prepare. They think they know what humans are like. Let us show them how wrong they can be." The second day of talks began at exactly 1000 hours, station time. The aliens arrived looking more organized than before. They brought additional advisors and carried more equipment. Ambassador Kelthrin walked with purpose, and Trade Minister VexHy had 3 different tablets instead of 1. Deho watched them enter the meeting room. Behind the main delegation came new faces. A tall, insect-like alien with compound eyes carried what looked like a legal database. A small purple alien with tentacles instead of arms held scanning equipment. They were taking the humans more seriously now. "Good morning," said Deho as everyone took their seats. "I hope you rested well." "We did," replied Kelthrin. "We also received additional authorization from the Consortium Council. We are prepared to offer more generous terms than usual for first contact agreements." Yunji glanced at Taemin. The aliens were moving faster than normal. Something had made them nervous overnight. VexHy activated a holographic display above the table. Numbers and charts appeared in the air, showing trade routes, resource values, and economic projections. The display was impressive and clearly designed to overwhelm new species with the scope of galactic commerce. These are standard mining rights agreements, said HFY. We propose exclusive extraction rights to 80% of Earth's rare metal deposits. In exchange, we provide military protection, technological advancement packages, and access to galactic markets. Sora studied the numbers floating in the air. Her eyes moved quickly from chart to chart, memorizing every detail. The terms looked generous on the surface, but she could see the hidden problems. The protection clause is interesting, said Taemin. What specific threats does it cover? Kelthron gestured with two of his arms. Space pirates, hostile species, natural disasters, internal conflicts. Standard protection covers all common dangers faced by developing worlds. Internal conflicts? Asked Daeho. You mean civil wars? Sometimes new species experience difficulty adjusting to galactic contact, said the insect-like alien in a buzzing voice. Social disruption, economic instability, political disagreement about alien interaction. We help maintain stability during transition periods. Yunji felt a chill. The aliens were offering to interfere in human politics if there was disagreement. About the trade deal, it was a threat disguised as protection. We appreciate the offer, said Daeho. But we need time to study these terms carefully. May we have until tomorrow to prepare our response? The aliens exchanged glances again. HFY's fur rippled in what might have been annoyance. Time is valuable, said HFY. Other species are eager for consortium attention. Delays may result in reduced availability of resources we currently offer. We understand, said Sora smoothly, but Earth's government requires thorough analysis before major decisions. Surely the consortium appreciates careful consideration over hasty choices. Kelthron nodded slowly. Wisdom is valued. We will wait until tomorrow. The meeting ended, and the aliens returned to their ship. As soon as they left, the human team went into action. Yoon Jae-sung was waiting in a smaller room down the hall. He wore the uniform of a communications technician and carried data tablets that looked official. Jae-sung specialized in information warfare, though the aliens did not know that. Is everything ready? Asked Daeho. Yes, said Jae-sung. I have prepared false communication logs that suggest Earth has been contacted by the Zelkari Trade Federation. The logs show ongoing negotiations for a competing trade agreement. Han Mi-kyung joined them. She was officially listed as a language specialist, but her real job was much more complex. She understood not just alien languages, but how to change meanings while appearing to translate correctly. I have identified key phrases in their proposals that can be interpreted multiple ways, said Mi-kyung. If we agree to their terms using specific wording, we can later claim different meanings based on their own legal precedents. Oh Sung-woo was the last to arrive. He looked like a simple mining engineer, which was exactly what the aliens expected him to be. But Sung-woo had spent years studying alien technology and knew more about galactic mining operations than most consortium experts. I have prepared geological surveys that are completely accurate but extremely confusing, said Sung-woo. The data shows that Earth's resources are incredibly valuable, but also incredibly difficult to extract. The extraction costs will be much higher than they expect. Daeho smiled. Perfect. Let us begin. Over the next 6 hours, the human team executed their plan. Jae-sung accidentally left his data tablet in a public area where alien monitoring devices could detect it. The false communication logs were stored on the tablet in a way that looked like careless security, but was actually carefully planned. Mi-kyung sent messages to Earth using communication codes that the aliens could partially decode. The partial messages suggested urgent discussions about competing alien offers and mentioned species names that would make the consortium nervous. Sung-woo uploaded his geological surveys to the station's main database with security settings that would allow alien hackers to access the files with moderate effort. The surveys contained real data presented in the most confusing way possible. Within hours, the alien ship showed increased activity. More ships arrived from deeper in their territory. Communication arrays extended from the hull and pointed toward distant stars. The aliens were calling for help and advice. They are panicking, said Yoonji as she watched the alien ships through the station's telescopes. Their body language yesterday showed confusion. Today they are moving like prey animals who sense a predator. That evening, Ambassador Kelthron requested an emergency meeting. The human team gathered in the meeting room, where they found the aliens waiting with even more advisors than before. "We have become aware of certain complications," said Kelthrin without the usual polite greetings. His voice sounded strained, and all four arms moved restlessly. "Complications?" asked Deho innocently. "Other alien factions may be attempting to interfere with these negotiations," said Vexhai. His blue fur was darker than usual, which Yunji recognized as a sign of stress. "We are prepared to improve our offer significantly to ensure Earth's partnership with the consortium." The holographic display appeared again, but this time the numbers were much better for Earth. The aliens were offering advanced technology, reduced mining percentages, and promises of rapid economic development. "This is very generous," said Taemin. "What has changed since yesterday?" Kelthrin's arms stopped moving. "We have received intelligence suggesting that hostile factions may attempt to disrupt galactic stability in this region. Earth's strategic location makes it valuable for maintaining peace." Sora leaned forward. "Strategic location? Our system is at the edge of known space. What makes it strategically important?" Another pause. The aliens were improvising now, making up explanations for their sudden generosity. "Edge systems often become important during expansion phases," said the insect-like alien. "Control of edge systems prevents hostile species from establishing forward positions." Sungwoo spoke for the first time that day. "I have been studying your geological requirements. Earth's mineral composition is unusual. Most of our rare metals are embedded in extremely unstable rock formations. Extraction will require specialized equipment and very careful procedures." He activated his own display, showing complex geological charts that looked impressive, but were nearly impossible to understand quickly. Numbers and chemical formulas filled the air in confusing patterns. "As you can see," continued Shungwu, "the titanium-vanadium deposits are interlaced with radioactive uranium veins. Standard extraction methods would cause massive environmental damage and make the metals unusable. We would need completely new mining technology," the alien advisors whispered urgently among themselves. Vexhai's tablets showed he was running calculations, but the numbers were not working out the way he expected. "These complications can be overcome," said Vexhai, but his voice lacked confidence. "Of course," said Deho, "but the time and cost involved would be substantial. We want to be sure that any agreement accounts for these realities," Mi-kyung added. "We also want to ensure that all terms are clearly defined in languages that both sides understand perfectly. Legal precision prevents future misunderstandings." The aliens looked at each other again. The humans were being cooperative, but also raising issues that made simple agreements impossible. Every answer led to more questions. Every solution created new problems. "Perhaps," said Kelthrin slowly, "we should postpone final decisions until our technical experts can fully analyze these new factors." "That sounds wise," agreed Deho. "Careful planning benefits everyone." As the aliens filed out, they moved like people who had expected an easy day and found themselves climbing a mountain instead. Their confident posture from the morning was gone, replaced by the nervous energy of negotiators who realized they were not in control. "They came here expecting to dictate terms to primitive natives," said Taemin once the room was empty. "Instead, they found partners who ask difficult questions and provide complex answers." Yunji pulled up displays showing alien ship movements. 3 more consortium vessels have arrived in the system. They are bringing experts, lawyers, and additional negotiators. This simple first contact has become a major operation for... The third day brought changes that everyone could see. 5 alien ships now surrounded Luna Station like metal sharks circling prey. The largest ship belonged to the Consortium Military Command, and its hull bristled with weapon systems that could destroy a planet. Deho watched the new arrivals through the observation deck windows. The aliens were bringing their strongest weapons to a trade negotiation. It was either a sign of respect or a threat. Probably both. "They are trying to frighten us," said Young Subin as she joined him at the window. Subin had spent 15 years negotiating with terrorists and hostage-takers. She knew fear as a weapon better than anyone else on Earth. "Will it work?" asked Deho. Subin smiled. "On most species, yes. Fear is a powerful motivator. But they have made a mistake. They are showing us their weapons before they understand what humans fear." Kang Hyun-woo walked up carrying his ever-present tablet. The cultural anthropologist had been analyzing alien behavior patterns since the first day, building profiles of each species represented in the negotiations. The Vorthak. Use logic, said Hyun-woo. They believe that superior firepower equals superior negotiating position. The Nexari think money and weapons together make any offer irresistible. Both species are following standard intimidation protocols. Lim Yu-jin appeared in the hallway behind them. The communications officer had been monitoring alien broadcasts and internal messages. Her face showed the kind of excitement that came from discovering important information. They are broadcasting their weapon capabilities on multiple frequencies, said Yu-jin. Not just to us, but to other alien governments throughout this region of space. They want everyone to know they have overwhelming force available. Good, said Subin. Let them make noise. Today we show them what humans think about threats. The meeting room had been changed overnight. The aliens had brought new equipment that projected holographic displays around the entire space. When the human team entered, they found themselves surrounded by images of alien military power. Floating in the air were recordings of space battles where consortium fleets destroyed entire enemy forces. Planets burned under orbital bombardment. Massive ships fired weapons that could crack continents. The display was designed to make viewers feel small and helpless. Ambassador Kelthrin stood in the center of the room with his forearms spread wide. His usual calm expression had been replaced with something that might have been intended as intimidating. These are the forces available to protect consortium members, said Kelthrin. His voice echoed strangely in the holographic battlefield. Our enemies learn quickly that resistance brings only destruction. Trade Minister Vex-High activated additional displays showing economic conquest. Graphs and charts demonstrated how the consortium had absorbed hundreds of species, turning their resources into galactic wealth. Numbers showed the fate of species who had refused consortium offers. Economic isolation means death in modern galactic society, said Vex-High. His blue fur had returned to its normal color, but his movements were sharper than before. Independent species cannot survive without access to advanced technology and protection. The other aliens stood silently around the room like guards. Their presence was meant to remind the humans that they were outnumbered and outgunned. Daeho looked around the room calmly. His team showed no signs of fear or surprise. If anything, they looked interested in the technical details of the weapons being displayed. Impressive, said Daeho. Your military capabilities are clearly advanced. May we show you something about human culture in return? Kelthrin's arms moved slightly. The question was not what he had expected. That would be appropriate, said Kelthrin carefully. Subin activated her own holographic projector. Instead of weapons and battles, she showed humans doing things that looked insane to most alien species. The first image showed a human jumping out of an aircraft at high altitude with only a small parachute for safety. The second showed humans climbing vertical rock walls with no equipment except ropes. The third showed humans racing vehicles at speeds that would kill most alien species if they crashed. Humans have an unusual relationship with danger, said Subin conversationally. We consider risk-taking to be recreational. These are popular entertainment activities on Earth. The aliens stared at the displays. Several of them stepped backward, involuntarily. The next series of images showed human military history. Soldiers charging into gunfire, pilots diving their aircraft into enemy ships, Marines fighting hand-to-hand against impossible odds. The footage was real and recent enough to show that humans had not changed. Our military traditions emphasize individual initiative and acceptance of calculated risks, explained Subin. Human soldiers are trained to continue fighting even when victory seems impossible. Yu-jin added her own contribution to the display. Video clips showed humans working in environments that would kill most aliens instantly. Deep ocean research, stations where the pressure could crush metal, Arctic bases where the cold froze alien blood, space construction crews working outside their ships with minimal protection. Humans adapt to hostile environments by choice, said Yu-jin. We build homes in places other species consider uninhabitable. Environmental dangers that force other species to retreat make humans curious. Hyunwoo stepped forward with his tablet. Ready. We have been analyzing your military footage with great interest. The The weapon systems are fascinating. Could you provide technical specifications for academic study? The question hit the aliens like a physical blow. Kelthrin's arms folded defensively. Vexhai stopped touching his tablets. The other aliens moved closer together as if seeking protection. Technical specifications are classified military information, said Kelthrin. Of course, said Hyunwoo, agreeably. But the basic principles are educational. For example, those plasma cannons appear to use magnetic containment fields. Are they based on stellar fusion technology, or do they use artificial fusion reactions? More silence. The aliens had expected their weapon displays to create fear and submission. Instead, the humans were asking technical questions like students examining interesting homework problems. Subin continued her presentation. The next series showed human documentaries about war and conflict. Battles from human history where smaller forces defeated larger ones through superior tactics or determination. Stories of sieges that lasted years. Accounts of soldiers who fought until they ran out of ammunition, then continued fighting with improvised weapons. Human military philosophy emphasizes that weapons are tools, said Subin. Superior equipment helps, but human conflicts are usually decided by will and adaptability rather than firepower alone. She paused the display on an image of human children playing war games in a schoolyard. We teach competitive thinking from an early age. Strategy and tactics are considered basic education for all humans. The aliens whispered among themselves, in multiple languages. The sounds were more urgent than before, and several aliens touched communication devices to send messages to their ships. Your species appears to have an unusual comfort level with conflict, said Kelthrin slowly. Conflict is part of nature, replied Tae-min. Humans learned long ago that avoiding conflict often makes it worse when it finally comes. We prefer to face problems directly. Eugene brought up new displays showing human space development. Unlike the aliens, who built large ships and stayed inside them, humans built small ships and space stations that looked fragile but could be quickly replaced, if destroyed. Human space workers routinely performed tasks that required leaving the safety of pressurized environments. Human space development philosophy emphasizes redundancy and distributed risk, explained Eugene. We assume that some equipment will fail and some people will be lost. Our systems are designed to continue functioning even after significant damage. The alien military advisor, a large creature that looked like an armored lizard, spoke for the first time. Your species appears to plan for defeat and continue fighting anyway. We plan for everything, said Tae-min. Victory, defeat, and all the possibilities in between. Flexibility is more valuable than overwhelming force. Hyun-woo made notes on his tablet while watching alien reactions. Several aliens were now standing further from the humans than when the meeting began. Others kept touching their communication devices. A few were making what looked like stress gestures. We appreciate you sharing information about your military capabilities, said Daeho. It helps us understand the level of protection available to consortium members. We hope our cultural information is equally useful for understanding human perspectives on security and conflict. Vexhai managed to find his voice. Your species has unique approaches to risk management. Every species is unique, agreed. Sora. That is what makes galactic civilization interesting. Diversity of thought and method creates opportunities for mutual benefit. The meeting ended without the dramatic effect the aliens had clearly intended. Instead of frightened humans begging for protection, they found people who looked at their weapons with professional interest and discussed military strategy like an academic subject. As the aliens filed out, their posture had changed again. The confident intimidation from the beginning of the meeting was gone. They moved like people who had tried to scare someone and discovered that The fourth day brought a different kind of alien delegation. Instead of military officers and intimidation displays, the meeting room filled with economists, lawyers, and trade specialists. The aliens had decided that if fear would not work, they would use their superior knowledge of galactic commerce to overwhelm the humans. SEO Dong-hyun arrived early and found the aliens already setting up complex economic projections that covered every wall of the room. Numbers flowed in rivers of light, showing trade volumes, profit margins, and economic growth patterns across hundreds of worlds. Impressive display, said Dong-hyun to Ambassador Kelthron. The game theory specialist had spent the night analyzing every piece of economic data the aliens had shared. What he found was both encouraging and disturbing. The consortium economy spans 40,000 inhabited systems, said Kelthrin with something that might have been pride. Our trade networks carry 90% of all galactic commerce. Independent economies cannot compete with our scale and efficiency. Beijin entered, carrying legal databases that looked small compared to the alien displays, but contained information that would change everything. The patent law expert had discovered something the aliens did not expect humans to know about. Nam Ki-young was the last to arrive. The resource allocation strategist looked tired but satisfied. She had spent the night designing alternative proposals that would give humans everything they wanted while appearing to offer the aliens what they needed. "Shall we begin?" asked Trade Minister Vexhai. His blue fur practically glowed with excitement. Economics was his specialty, and he clearly expected to dominate this phase of negotiations. The alien legal advisor, a thin creature with 6 arms and crystalline skin, activated the main display. A standard consortium trade agreement appeared. In the air, written in Galactic Standard with subsections in multiple alien languages. "This is our most generous first contact trade package," said the legal advisor in a voice like breaking glass. "Resource extraction rights, technology transfer, protection services, and market access. 547 species have signed similar agreements." Dong-hyun studied the contract floating above the table. His eyes moved quickly through the economic clauses, and a slow smile spread across his face. "Very comprehensive," said Dong-hyun. "But I noticed some interesting legal precedents referenced in Section 47. These cases from the Kethvar trade disputes suggest alternative interpretations of several key clauses." The alien legal advisor's crystalline skin changed color slightly. "Those precedents apply only to specific circumstances involving pre-existing trade relationships." "Actually," said Jinnah, activating her own display, "those precedents establish that any species with documented prior contact with galactic civilization can claim enhanced legal status under consortium law." Her display showed legal documents that made several aliens lean forward in surprise. Patents filed with the Galactic Intellectual Property Office, technology licenses registered under ancient trade laws, commercial claims dating back 50 years. "We have been monitoring galactic communications since your first probe entered our system," continued Jinnah. "During that time, human researchers developed theoretical improvements to several technologies mentioned in your databases. We filed patents for these improvements under Section 12 of the Galactic Innovation Protection Act." Vexhai's tablets began beeping as he searched frantically through legal databases. His excitement was rapidly turning to alarm. "What does this mean?" asked Kelthrin. Jinnah smiled. "It means that several technologies the consortium uses for resource extraction are now covered by human patents. If you want to use improved plasma mining techniques or enhanced gravitational ore separation, you owe us licensing fees." The alien legal advisor's skin turned completely transparent with shock. "Those technologies have been in use for 300 years. "The base technologies, yes," agreed Jinnah. "But the improvements we developed are new, more efficient energy, conversion, reduced environmental impact, and increased yield per operation. Your own economic projections show these improvements could increase mining profits by 30%. Ki-young activated her own display showing resource allocation models. "We have also been analyzing galactic trade flows. The consortium's current expansion model requires constant acquisition of new resource-producing worlds to maintain growth. Without new sources, your economy will begin contracting within 50 years. The numbers floating in the air told a story the aliens had not wanted to share. The consortium was not the stable, permanent force they pretended to be. It was a growing organism that would starve without constant feeding. Earth represents the largest untapped resource base in this region of space," continued Ki-young. "But, more importantly, human innovation in resource extraction could extend the lifespan of existing consortium operations throughout the galaxy." Dong-hyun stood and walked to the center of the room. "The original trade agreement assumes a simple relationship where you provide protection and technology while we provide raw materials. But the legal and economic realities are more complex." He gestured, and new displays appeared showing game theory matrices and economic models. "If we accept your standard agreement, you gain access to Earth's resources but also create a competitor. Human technological innovation combined with consortium knowledge would rapidly produce improvements that threaten your economic dominance. The aliens whispered among themselves with increasing urgency. Kelthrin's forearms moved restlessly, and Vexhi's fur had turned a darker shade of blue. However, continued Dong Hyun, if we develop a partnership model instead of a simple resource extraction agreement, both sides benefit from shared innovation and reduced competition. Ki Young brought up detailed economic projections. Partnership model allows gradual technology transfer, shared research and development, and joint resource extraction that provides Earth with development capital while giving the consortium access to human innovation. The displays showed complex mathematical relationships that proved partnership would be more profitable for both sides than the standard extraction model. The numbers were undeniable. Your legal position is weaker than you initially claimed, said Jinnah. Our patent holdings give us significant leverage. Your economic position is less stable than your presentation suggested. And your need for continued expansion makes Earth more valuable to you than any individual resource extraction site. The alien legal advisor was now completely transparent and shaking slightly. Vexhi had stopped using his tablets and was staring at the human economic projections with something that looked like horror. You are suggesting that the standard consortium trade agreement is not appropriate for this situation, said Kelthrin slowly. We are suggesting that reality is more complicated than standard agreements usually account for, replied Dong Hyun. Successful negotiations require understanding actual positions rather than assumed positions. Ki Young added, we have prepared several alternative proposals that address the real economic and legal factors involved. The first alternative appeared in the air. Instead of simple resource extraction, it proposed joint development projects where human and alien teams worked together to develop new extraction techniques. Profits would be shared based on contribution rather than simple ownership. The second alternative proposed graduated technology transfer, where humans gained access to alien knowledge at a rate that matched their ability to contribute improvements. Both sides would own the resulting innovations. The third alternative created a regional development zone where Earth served as a research and development center for improved resource extraction throughout this region of space. The consortium would provide initial investment and infrastructure while humans provided innovation and labor. Each model provides the consortium with access to Earth's resources, explained Ki Young, but they also provide sustainable long-term growth instead of simple short-term extraction. The alien economists were now frantically calculating profit projections for each alternative. Their displays showed numbers that were significantly better than simple resource extraction, but also much more complex to implement. These proposals require extensive legal review and economic analysis, said the legal advisor in a voice that sounded like breaking crystal. Of course, agreed Jinnah. Legal precision prevents future disagreements. We suggest bringing in additional specialists to ensure that all aspects are properly addressed. Vexhi finally found his voice. The complexity of these arrangements would require approval from the Consortium Council. Such approval could take considerable time. We understand, said Dong Hyun. Complex agreements require careful consideration. Hasty decisions often lead to expensive mistakes. The meeting ended with the aliens requesting another recess to consult with their legal and economic experts. As they filed out, they moved like students who had expected an easy test and found themselves facing advanced mathematics. They came here with their standard contract, expecting us to sign without reading the fine print, said Jinnah once the room was empty. Instead, they found people who had read the fine print of everything they have ever written. Dong Hyun reviewed, the alien economic data still floating in the displays. Their trade model works because most species accept whatever. The fifth day began with an emergency that no one had expected. Go Minho rushed into the morning briefing room carrying urgent messages from Earth's communication centers around the galaxy. We have a problem, said Minho, but his expression suggested it might actually be good news. The aliens have been broadcasting updates about these negotiations to their entire civilization. Every species in the Galactic Trade Consortium knows about the humans who are giving their negotiators trouble. Shin Hae-won looked up from her communication displays with excitement. It gets better. Independent news networks throughout the galaxy are covering the story. These negotiations have become entertainment for billions of alien civilians. Jun Seo activated wall displays showing intercepted alien communications. News broadcasts in dozens of languages filled the room. The human team could not understand most of what was being said, but the images told the story clearly. Video clips showed the human negotiation team looking calm and professional, while alien delegates appeared increasingly frustrated. Economic charts demonstrated how humans had found weaknesses in standard consortium trade agreements. Legal experts discussed how human patent claims could change galactic commerce. "They are calling us the species that reads the fine print," said Jun Seo with a grin. Several alien governments have postponed their own trade negotiations to see how this ends. Minho pulled up more displays. "It is not just governments. Alien betting networks have made these negotiations the most popular gambling event in the galaxy. The odds started heavily in favor of the consortium, but they have been shifting toward humans every day." Hayawan showed communication logs from alien news networks. "They want interviews with our negotiation team. 3 different documentary crews are requesting permission to film the remaining sessions. A Nexari entertainment company offered to buy broadcast rights to the negotiations." The scale of attention was stunning. What had started as a routine first-contact trade negotiation had become a galactic spectacle. Millions of alien civilians were following the story like humans might follow a sports championship. "Why are they so interested?" asked Daeho as he studied the alien news broadcasts. "Because nothing like this has ever happened before," replied Jun Seo. "For 3,000 years, first-contact negotiations have followed the same pattern. New species meet the consortium, get overwhelmed by superior technology and economics, and sign standard agreements. We are the first species to turn the negotiations into a chess match." Minho activated recordings of alien expert discussions. "Listen to this. These are consortium trade specialists trying to explain to news reporters why the negotiations are taking so long." The alien voices spoke in Galactic Standard, which the human team could understand. The conversation was both educational and amusing. "The humans appear to have extensive knowledge of galactic law," said one expert. "This is unprecedented for a species making first contact. Their legal research capabilities exceed those of most established civilizations," added another. "They have found precedents and loopholes that our own legal experts had forgotten existed." "More concerning is their psychological profile," said a third voice. "Standard intimidation protocols not only failed, but seemed to make them more interested in the negotiations, rather than more compliant." Haiwan laughed. "They are discussing us like we are some kind of puzzle they cannot solve." The morning briefing was interrupted by an urgent communication from Ambassador Kelthran. The alien delegation was requesting an immediate meeting to discuss what they called external factors affecting the negotiation environment. The human team entered the meeting room to find it packed with aliens from species they had never seen before. The original consortium delegation was there, but they were now outnumbered by observers, advisors, and what looked like alien reporters. "This situation has become complicated," said Kelthran without preamble. His 4 arms moved in what the humans had learned was a sign of extreme stress. "Media attention has created pressure from multiple sources." Trade Minister Vexhai looked exhausted. His blue fur was patchy, and he kept glancing nervously at the alien observers. "Consortium leadership is receiving demands for information from member governments. They want to know why a simple first-contact negotiation requires so many resources and experts." A new alien stepped forward. This one was tall and thin with silver skin and multiple eyes arranged around its head. "I am Information Coordinator Zethmar from the Consortium Public Relations Division. We need to discuss managing public perception of these negotiations." Minho exchanged glances with his teammates. The aliens were now worried about their public image. That gave humans a new kind of leverage. "We appreciate the consortium's concern about public relations," said Minho carefully. "Earth also values transparent communication about important negotiations." Zethmar's multiple eyes focused on Minho with what might have been alarm. "Transparency must be balanced with diplomatic confidentiality. Excessive media attention can interfere with productive negotiations." "Of course," agreed Hayawan. "But public interest in galactic affairs is natural. Citizens want to understand how their governments make important decisions." More alien whispers filled the room. The observers were taking notes and recording everything the humans said. Some were clearly reporters who would broadcast human responses throughout the galaxy. "The betting networks are particularly problematic," said Vex-High quietly. "Gambling on diplomatic outcomes creates perverse incentives for all parties involved." Jun Seo looked innocent. "Betting is a natural response to uncertainty. If the negotiations followed standard patterns, there would be no uncertainty and no betting." Kelthrin's arms drooped. "You are suggesting that unpredictability creates the gambling problem. We are suggesting that predictable outcomes remove the element of chance that makes gambling interesting," replied Jun Seo. "If consortium negotiations always end the same way, no one would bet on them." The alien reporters were frantically recording this exchange. The humans were discussing galactic politics like experts, while the consortium delegates looked like they were losing control of the situation. Zethmar tried to regain control of the conversation. "Perhaps we could agree to limit media access until negotiations are complete." "That seems reasonable," said Haiwan. "But limiting access equally means no special treatment for consortium-affiliated media networks. Independent journalists should have the same access as official reporters." More frantic note-taking from the alien observers. The humans had just suggested that consortium media was not neutral, which was true, but not something usually said in public. Minho decided to escalate the situation. "We have been receiving interview requests from multiple news networks. Earth's government wants to ensure that human perspectives are accurately represented in galactic media coverage." The aliens looked horrified. Independent species were not supposed to have direct communication with galactic media. That privilege was usually reserved for consortium members. "Media interviews could complicate negotiations," said Kelthrin weakly. "Only if the parties involved have something to hide," replied Minho. "Earth's position is straightforward. We want fair trade relationships that benefit both sides. That message should be easy to communicate clearly." Zethmar's silver skin had turned a darker color. "Unofficial communications could lead to misunderstandings." "Professional journalists are trained to avoid misunderstandings," said Haiwan. "We trust galactic media to report accurately on important diplomatic events." The meeting devolved into chaos as alien reporters began asking questions directly to the human team. The consortium delegates tried to restore order, but they had lost control completely. "When will Earth make a final decision on consortium membership?" asked one reporter. "We are still evaluating all options," replied Daeho. "Earth wants to make the best possible decision for our species and our galactic neighbors." "Are humans concerned about consortium military capabilities?" asked another. "Military strength is one factor among many," replied Taemin. "Earth respects strength, but also values wisdom, fairness, and mutual benefit." "What makes human negotiation methods different from other species?" asked a third reporter. "We ask questions," said Sora simply. "Humans believe that understanding all aspects of a situation leads to better decisions for everyone involved." The alien reporters loved these answers. Here was a species that spoke directly, answered questions honestly, and treated galactic politics like a normal part of life, rather than something mysterious and frightening. The formal meeting ended when Kelthrin announced another recess to address procedural complications. The consortium delegates fled the high room like people escaping a disaster. "They have completely lost control of the situation," said Jun Seo as he reviewed the alien media coverage. "These negotiations started as a private business transaction and turned into a public relations nightmare for the consortium." Minho checked Earth's communication logs. "We are receiving contact requests from dozens of independent alien governments. Species that are not part of the consortium want to establish their own relationships with Earth." Haiwan smiled as she read the latest betting odds. "The galactic gambling networks now favor humans to achieve a negotiated settlement that gives Earth significant autonomy, while the sixth day arrived with news that changed everything. The Consortium High Council had arrived during the night aboard their flagship, a massive vessel that dwarfed every other ship in the system. The Council only traveled together for the most critical decisions in galactic politics." Ryu Sang-min stood at the observation deck watching the Council ship position itself directly above Luna Station. The strategic forecasting expert had been running probability calculations all night, and the results were both encouraging and terrifying. "They are desperate," said Sang-min to Daeho, as the negotiation team prepared for what everyone knew would be the final session. The council ship carries representatives from every major consortium species. They do not travel together unless something threatens the stability of their entire system. John Yuri activated her legal databases one last time. The contract specialist had spent 5 days preparing for this moment, when all the legal maneuvering would either succeed or fail. Completely, we have them trapped between multiple impossible choices, said Yuri. If they walk away from these negotiations, they look weak to every species in the galaxy. If they accept our terms, they create precedents that will change how every future negotiation works. Quan Tae-ho checked his backup negotiation strategies. The backup negotiator had prepared responses to every possible alien move, but he knew that predicting desperate opponents was nearly impossible. What happens if they decide to use force? Asked Tae-ho. They cannot, replied Sang-min. Military action against us now would prove to every species in the galaxy that consortium negotiations are backed by threats rather than legitimate mutual benefit. Their entire political system depends on the illusion of voluntary cooperation. The Bao meeting room had been transformed overnight into something resembling a courtroom or legislative chamber. Dozens of alien species filled seats arranged in a circle around a central negotiation area. Representatives from the Consortium High Council sat in elevated positions overlooking the proceedings. Ambassador Kelthron entered looking like someone facing execution. His 4 arms hung limply at his sides, and his usual calm expression had been replaced by visible exhaustion. Trade Minister Vexhai followed behind him, his blue fur now completely gray with stress. The High Council has reviewed these negotiations, said Kelthron in a voice that carried to every corner of the room. They have authorized me to present final terms that represent the absolute limits of consortium flexibility. A new holographic display filled the center of the room. The terms were dramatically better than anything offered before. Advanced technology transfers, equal partnership status, shared governance of trade routes, and protection agreements that read more like mutual defense pacts than simple security services. These terms are unprecedented in consortium history, continued Kelthron. No species has ever been offered full partnership status without first serving a probationary period as a junior member. Daeho studied the display carefully. The terms were genuinely generous, but they were also clearly designed to end the negotiations immediately. The aliens were offering humans almost everything they could want in exchange for quick agreement that would stop the galactic media circus. The offer is impressive, said Daeho, but we have developed alternative proposals that might serve both sides even better. A murmur went through the alien observers. The humans were not accepting the most generous offer in consortium history. Instead, they were suggesting improvements. Yuri activated her final presentation. The holographic display showed a completely different model for human-alien relations. Instead of joining the consortium as members, Earth would become an independent partner that provided specialized services to multiple galactic governments. The traditional membership model assumes that all species want the same things from galactic civilization, said Yuri. But humans have different strengths and different goals than most species. The new model established Earth as a center for negotiation training, legal analysis, and diplomatic problem-solving. Instead of providing raw materials in exchange for protection, humans would provide expertise in exchange for technology and access to galactic civilization. Humans appear to have natural advantages in competitive negotiation and complex legal analysis, continued Yuri. These skills are valuable throughout the galaxy, not just to the consortium. Sang-min added his strategic analysis. The current consortium expansion model creates long-term instability because it depends on constant growth. Partnership with humans provides access to innovation that could extend the lifespan of existing operations while reducing the need for aggressive expansion. The displays showed mathematical models proving that human expertise could solve economic problems throughout consortium space. Improved negotiation techniques could reduce conflicts between member species. Better legal frameworks could prevent the trade disputes that currently wasted enormous resources. You are proposing that humans become professional negotiators for the entire galaxy, said one of the High Council members in a voice like grinding stone. We are proposing that humans contribute what we do best while learning from species that excel in areas where we are weak, replied Sang-min. Specialization benefits everyone. Taeho presented the final element of the human proposal. Instead of a single massive agreement, Earth suggested a series of smaller partnerships with different alien governments. Some would focus on trade, others on research, others on diplomatic services. Multiple partnerships provide redundancy and prevent any single relationship from becoming too important, explained Taeho. Diversity of relationships creates stability for all parties involved. The alien observers were now taking notes frantically. The humans had just proposed a complete restructuring of how species interacted with galactic civilization. Instead of the traditional model where powerful groups absorbed weaker ones, they were suggesting a network of independent specialists. The High Council members conferred among themselves in multiple languages. Their discussion lasted nearly an hour, while the rest of the room waited in tense silence. Finally, the senior council member spoke. This alien looked ancient even by galactic standards, with crystalline growths covering most of its body and eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of millennia. The proposals you have presented would require fundamental changes to systems that have maintained galactic stability for 3,000 years, said the ancient alien. Why should we risk such changes? Taeho stood and walked to the center of the room. Everything had led to this moment, and he knew that his answer would determine the future of human-alien relations. Because your current system is already changing whether you want it to or not, said Taeho quietly. These negotiations have shown that new species will not automatically accept traditional terms. Media coverage means that future negotiations will be public events rather than private business transactions. Most importantly, galactic civilization has grown too complex for simple solutions. He gestured to the alien observers filling the room. Every species here is watching to see whether the consortium can adapt to new realities or only knows how to repeat old patterns. The decision you make today will determine how every future first contact situation develops. Sang-min added the final argument. Humans do not fear you because we understand that fear is a choice. We studied your methods, learned your rules, and found ways to use your own systems more effectively than you do. Other species will learn to do the same thing. You can either partner with the species that figured it out first, or fight against every species that learns these lessons in the future. The room fell completely silent. The humans had just explained why the consortium should fear them, and why that fear could be transformed into mutual benefit if both sides chose cooperation over confrontation. The High Council deliberated for another hour before reaching their decision. When they announced their choice, it surprised everyone in the room. The consortium accepts the human proposal for graduated partnership with independent status, announced the senior council member. Earth will maintain full sovereignty while providing specialized services to consortium members and independent governments throughout the galaxy. The announcement created chaos in the observation area as alien reporters rushed to send news throughout the galaxy. The humans had not just negotiated a favorable deal. They had changed the fundamental assumptions about how galactic diplomacy worked. As the formal signing ceremonies concluded, Kelthrin approached Taeho privately. The alien ambassador looked exhausted, but also relieved that the ordeal was finally over. I must ask, said Kelthrin quietly. Did you plan all of this from the beginning? Taeho smiled. We planned to negotiate the best possible arrangement for Earth. Everything else happened because we approached the negotiations as a problem to be solved rather than a battle to be won or lost. Your species is dangerous, said Kelthrin, but his tone suggested respect rather than threat. Only to those who assume we think the same way they do, replied Taeho. We are dangerous to assumptions, not to people. 6 months later, the phrase never negotiate with humans unless you have to had become common wisdom throughout the galaxy, not because humans were dishonest or aggressive, but because they approached every negotiation as an intellectual chawl.